Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude at BeyondMystic, and welcome to today's deep woo-woo episode of Nostradamus and the Vortex of Time. With me, of course, is our guest host, Mr. Jay Weidner. You can find him at jweidner.com. He's a book author and film producer, and you can also find him here on YouTube at Reality Check. Mr. Weidner, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm excited to have you on for this amazing series here. We're coming into an end here with the Nostradamus decode, and this show is set to be one for the record books as well. We're very excited to move forward with you in also a new endeavor, and we'll speak about that in a few moments. Of course, please also join me in welcoming the amazing Julie. You can find her at maisonjupiter.com here on the web and also on YouTube at Maison Jupiter. Julie, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm very good. Nice to be here. Hello, Jay. Hey, JC. And hi to everybody watching.
Hey.
Hello. Julie, bring your microphone again down just a little bit. You're a little bit hot compared to Jay, I think. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here today on this live interactive show. We love to see your comments as we go here throughout the broadcast. And of course, if you have any questions, we'll try to get to them at the end of the show. So today's episode, guys, we're going to be looking at two different themes. Well, the theme is alchemy, first of all, but two different segments. We're going to be looking at the metaphysical level, and we're also going to be looking at the physical level of this particular two quatrains of Nostradamus. And we're going to tie that into the Ark of the Covenant. So a lot of information to share with you guys here today. Before I do that, Jay, a little bird told me that perhaps you're getting back into the producing chair. Anything you can share with the audience members here as to what's coming up in 2023 for Mr. Jay Weidner?
Yeah, well, I'm actually making a trilogy. I'm making the first one right now, being edited as we speak, and it's on a very famous event that happened in the 20th century that everybody knows about, and the subtitle is "Solving the Crime of the Century." I don't want to say the title yet, but that's the subtitle. And then I'm doing another one on the history of MK Ultra, the origins of MK Ultra, and why it's so important for us to understand why these programs that were started in the 1950s were so dangerous and are so dangerous, including getting into Leonard Cohen working with in Montreal as a young kid, 14 years old, being involved in a mind control operation run by the Central Intelligence Agency, if you can believe that. And an old girlfriend is going to be in. We're going to interview her. But anyway, and then the last one's going to be on another famous event that happened in the 60s. So I'm taking the 1960s and showing how this was the beginning of a kind of societal, I don't want to say mind control because it's really opinion control. The MK is not mind control like everyone thinks it is. It's actually a German. I'll screw it up, so I'm not going to say it. It's two German words that mean opinion control. That's what it is. So I think it's time for us to, just like we're talking about alchemy, I think it's now time for us to uncover and release everything that has happened to show us how we got in the fix we're in right now.
Wow, that's fascinating. In a work correspondence show a couple of weeks ago, we showed this KGB defector talking about subversion and how we were overfulfilled in those four segments of subversion here in order to attack your enemy. It was fascinating to watch, and I'm very, very excited to see your mind control documentary too, to see and to learn even more how we've been messed with, because that's the point. When you don't know you've been messed with, that's the issue at hand. But once you know and you see some of the tactics that are being used against you, you can go, aha, no, this far, no further. And this is when things start to change. Is that the genesis for the reason why you're doing this, Jay? How are you inspired to do this?
Well, what happened is that I was really good friends with researcher, writer Dave McGowan, who died prematurely. Unfortunately, he wrote a book about the music scene in Laurel Canyon in the 1960s. And we would talk endlessly for hours on the phone about all the artists that came to Laurel Canyon all of a sudden out of the blue, and how they were all the sons and daughters of intelligence agents, high-ranking military. Jim Morrison's dad was an admiral in the Navy, was part of the Gulf of Tonkin incident that got us into Vietnam full scale. And then I began realizing that the whole culture has come out of this MK Ultra programs that were started in the 50s, and the
Mhm.
60s was really the first wave of it, and it's getting worse and worse, and the good part is that we're starting to recognize the manipulation as the age of Aquarius dawns, and we're seeing through it. And I'm telling you right now, I've never seen so many conspiracy theorists on the internet as I see now. I mean, it's like everywhere. So
Yeah.
everyone's waking up, and so it's a good time to finally release some of the more pertinent information, I think.
Do you think that the Laurel Canyon murders had to do with perhaps a cover up of everything you're talking about now, like a big cleanup operation, or were they not connected in your mind?
Well, there's a really good book that just came out about the Manson murders, and I highly recommend that you read it. It's really, or even interview the guy. He's really good. He's been studying it for 20 years, and he concludes that Charles Manson was working for the government, for the FBI or somebody, and that he was an informant, and that the whole the whole scene there in Laurel Canyon at that time was incredibly satanic. And it was. I mean, they were all practicing Satanists. Roman Polanski, Sharon Tate. Everybody was really into this stuff. All the entire music scene was into it, and it's just an amazing story. And Dave McGowan died before he really got to publicize it, right?
Mhm.
So he died right soon after he wrote the book and published it. And so I feel kind of like, since I was his buddy, I'm going to try to lift his work up a little bit here.
That's really cool. It makes me think of the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I absolutely
Yeah.
love that Quentin
Yeah,
Tarantino.
when I think about that, I just want to say something about that movie. I like that movie, by the way.
Yeah,
I think it's Quentin Tarantino's best movie.
yeah.
I believe that uh, what happened is right after Kill Bill, Quentin Tarantino started making propaganda films. Django Unchained
Right.
and the other one, The Inglorious Bastards. He started making propaganda films. He was clearly being told by somebody in Hollywood, make a movie about this, make a movie about that. And I believe that because this guy was doing a full-scale investigation into the Manson murders, he was told, I want you to make a movie about the Manson murders, right? And
Mm.
Tarantino, being the rebel that he is like, screw you. I'm going to flip the tables on you guys. I'll make a movie about the Manson murders, but not in the way that you think. And he did that. I'm actually going to do a whole thing on Quentin Tarantino. He's done that with every one of his propaganda films. He's
Mhm.
told to make a movie about how horrible white people are and how terrible slavery was, which it was. But he turns the tables on it again. And he does that also in Inglorious Bastards. He turns the tables on the people that are telling him what the propaganda's got to be in his movie. And it's really, he's walking the razor's edge, Tarantino is. I think that's why he only wants to make one more film, because I think, well, especially when I do my analysis and reveal what he's really saying in his films, he's probably never going to work in Hollywood again.
Okay. Don't say that. Don't say that. But yes, guys, go see it if you haven't seen it. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Great movie.
Yeah, you just sit back and relax. The speed of this movie, it just brings you on like a nice summer's night, like just chill kind of movie. It's just amazing. In the end, of course, it's just like riveting, to say the least.
Hilarious.
Someone who was just asking you, Jay, what was the movie title? The book title. Is it this one?
There it is. That's it.
Okay,
That's
what I
it.
thought it was. Okay.
That is a great book. Oh my God. That is proof that MK Ultra, the 60s were completely created by MK Ultra programs.
Wow.
That's basically what he proves in this book.
I'm gonna add that to cart. There you go. Okay. Speaking of movies, also, so this is going to be the last of our Nostradamus and the Vortex of Time special features here with Julie and Jay Weidner, and we're jumping right into our brand new series, which is entitled Movie Decodes. Julie, explain the concept here behind this brand new series with Jay Weidner, yourself, and me here at BeyondMystic.
Yeah, so with Jay's really wide knowledge about movies, we wanted to talk about specific movies. So this one is just a draft poster. We might or might not do Stargate, but I'm thinking also looking into sci-fi movies, but not just sci-fi movies. And we'd like to really get the spiritual concepts in those movies and really talk about alchemy, about awakening, about all the parallels that we can make with the movies, with what's sort of happening in our evolution with consciousness.
It's really fun to be able to decode the movies and realize that in many cases they were in fact documentaries. We just didn't know they weren't presented as such. So it's going to be a fabulous ride. So join us for these new series here. We'll be bringing up the posters in the next couple of weeks for you guys. All right, so let's go back to the context for today. Julie, we have two quatrains we want to look at. Let me see if I can bring up the first one here for today. I believe it was 313. We're starting there. Yeah, so let me bring that slide up for you here if you want to set that up for the audience.
The other ones, please. This is the book.
This one here earlier here. This one.
There you go.
Yes. Okay, so 313, Nostradamus says, okay, so I just want to mention here that the translation from French to English is not really precise, so I'm just going to bring some nuances here.
Okay.
So he says here, through lightning in the box, gold and silver are melted. So here we're looking at more of an physical alchemy type of concept. And in the French version, it says, foudre en l'arche, so lightning, but it's not a box, it's more an arc. So arche in French, I would personally translate it more as an arc than a box, but apparently it has two meanings. So when I was thinking about that, I had the image of the Ark of the Covenant in my mind. So I don't know if that was Nostradamus referring to, but it just might. So we'll just touch on that just in case. And because I watched let's say a video from Gosha from Cosmic Agency, and she did a whole video on the Ark of the Covenant, saying that there's three of them existing, not just one. And really, really interesting video. You can go and watch it on the Cosmic Agency channel. And also, she is saying in the video that basically there's a lot of DNA that's been stored from the planet and the humans and all the biology there. And to sort of preserve the untouched DNA. So that's kind of an interesting topic right now. And what did I want to say about that? Yeah, so she has an image in the video that there's a lightning sort of striking through the arc. So I just had this image while I was reading the Nostradamus quatrain, which I found very interesting because it does say through lightning in the box or the arc. So maybe something happens with the arc, and also it kind of leads also to maybe new technologies being revealed. So and also in the Dolores Cannon book, they are talking about a new technology being unveiled with this quatrain. So second line, of the two captives, one will eat the other. So whether he is talking here about gold and silver or something inside the ark, in the decode, he's saying the polarized energies of the two elements that he's talking about must be kept in balance, in some sort of harmony, so that sort of an alchemical process can take place there. And then third line, from the city, the most overextended, and then when the fleet travels underwater. So here, Cosmic Agency, she made another video a year ago, I think, about the possibility of maybe having another arc in Ukraine. And maybe that it might be one of the reasons, not just the sole reason, but one of the reasons why there is maybe a conflict over there. So wanting to take possession of this arc because maybe there's technology in it, maybe there's important DNA. And also in the other video, they talk about how it is also a weapon. And here, if you guys watched the Raiders of the Lost Ark movie, Indiana Jones, I'm sure you remember there. It's a powerful weapon that can defend itself if people with, let's say, not the right frequency approaches it or not the right intentions. So Gosha is also saying that this movie is kind of more of a documentary than a fiction movie. So yeah, that was a nice scene. Thank you. And going back, so going back to the quatrain there, so from the city the most overextended. So I'm not quite sure about this line here, but maybe are we talking about Ukraine? Maybe one of the reasons why there's a conflict over there. And then last line, when the fleet travels underwater. So in the decode in Dolores Cannon's book, he's talking about a new technology that will be used for military, using submarines. So a lot of the war being underwater, a lot of new technology with this physical alchemy being used for war or whatever submarine technology they need. So a lot of topics to discuss here, but yeah, that's.
Jay, where do you want to start with that? Do you want to that first line about the la foudre en arc, the arc of the spark, maybe if you want to call it that way? What are your first thoughts on basically the construction of the arc, where it comes from, and what's the energy within? What's the secrets there?
Well, the box of the arc is a capacitor, and it slowly builds up a charge. And then when it hits the maximum charge, the angels are the positive and negative of the charge. And so the charge comes out through the angels, and it's a plasma weapon, essentially, like lightning, essentially. It's shoots out gigantic lightning bolts and tore down the walls of Jericho, and could smite your enemies, and a lot of other things. You couldn't go near the ark while it was sitting in its chamber unless there was incense in the air. That's because the smoke is absorbing kind of the plasma charge that's all the time emitting, because it's literally taking electricity out of the air and into the capacitor. And it's an orgone box. In a way, it's like the same thing as an orgone box. And there should be many of these. There could be more than 3 for all we know. There you go. That's exactly what it's doing. It's gathering up charge. That's why it has the metal plate and the wood and everything inside it. It's a prescription that you have to have. And Putin, I know that Putin found a weapon underneath a mosque in Saudi Arabia, was it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Underneath the Mecca. And now it's supposed to be in Antarctica, in one of the Russian.
It's in Antarctica. And Putin was called in because there's a link, believe it or not, between the Orthodox Church of Russia and the Sunni Muslims. And they've always had this kind of friendship between them. And so they called up, their friends in the Orthodox Church and said, "We got this. Can you come help us?" And so they came down there. So that might have precipitated, since they had proven that they had these plasma weapons that were very dangerous, by the way, Putin may have definitely decided to go look for more. I mean, you could take over the earth if you had the plasma weapons, and we do have plasma weapons. The United States, the Navy in particular, has plasma weapons, and I'm starting to think that every time that Nostradamus mentions the fleet, he's actually talking about the secret intelligence groups within the United States that are fighting against the cabal.
Mm-hmm.
And so the underwater might be underground, where the fleet travels under, so no one can see what they're doing. See, that might be what that means too.
Yeah, it makes sense. And also fleet could be underwater, but it could also be in the air, in space, right? So
right, that's exactly right. Then the Navy, until Space Force, the Navy ran NASA. Mm-hmm. So the Navy was not only running all of our naval operations and intelligence operations outside of the CIA, but they were also the people who were dominating in outer space. Mm-hmm. So and they're not real happy, is what I hear. The boys and the girls that are in those groups, that they're not very happy right now, and I would look for something to happen soon.
Well, that was in the WebBot data reports a while back too, that we would eventually get a rapprochement from our call it space brothers or breakaway civilizations, and that there would need to be some type of new deal met here with the people on the surface. And when you go
I
to
think so. I think that's about to happen.
Yeah. The thing about the underwater and the submarines also, like we're reminded that, there are canals of water from the coast all the way into maybe China Lake. So some of these military bases in Nebraska. So even though they're underground, they're actually still underwater as well. So there's a lot there.
There is a lot there, actually. It's I think that the gold and the silver. Go back to that. I'll mention one other thing about that quatrain.
Yeah, let me bring that up here. Go ahead.
So I think that what he's saying is that if you put gold and silver inside the Ark of the Covenant, the silver will turn into gold. Of the two captives, one will eat the other. So I think it transmutes the silver into gold. So I think that's what it's saying. So what you do is you take a glob of silver and just a little tiny bit of gold, and you put it in there, and then that transmutes the silver into gold. It's really a recipe for how to do it.
Yeah, let me bring up the documentary I was bringing up from one of our friends here, Mariam Hanin. She was a producer here and content creator on BeyondMystic, and she created this documentary, I believe in the late 90s, I forget. But anyways, here's the link. You can find that here on YouTube. I'll bring that down. We did a decode on this maybe a year ago, and she recreated the arc here. She had John Hutchison help out and a few other scientists, and that was a really, really fascinating scenario. Yeah, it's really cool. I'll send you that link also. Right after the show,
John Hutchison's right on.
Yeah, it was a fascinating, and we had John Hutchison on the show also to describe some of this, and I think we got pulled, or that episode got pulled because he was saying some really bad words. Well, you know what I mean by bad words. Anyways, it was here on YouTube, and we had to pull that, or they pulled it actually just as we were ending the show. But on top of that documentary, there's another one I'm trying to remember. I think it aired on the Discovery Channel, so way back when I was a kid, that suggested that perhaps that the Ark of the Covenant, on top of being the alchemical, I think it had multiple raisons d'être. One of them was a communication device, and they talked about the fact also that when I go back to this quatrain, so let me go back here, and instead of saying gold and silver, where one will eat the other, I thought it could have been something akin to Star Trek, where we have this matter antimatter chamber, and that the connection of those two could create this huge energy source that could be heralded, wielded into different technologies. I
believe that the Ark of the Covenant also allows 3D physical people to communicate with the secret plasma universe.
Okay, that's why I brought up the Indiana Jones thing. Also, in an older documentary, which I forget the name, they were talking about the priest going before the ark. I'm going to see if I can find a close-up picture here, maybe at the beginning. They had to go through a specific anointing process, so they would use these specific oils, but also they had a breastplate made of gold, perhaps other metals, and also jewelry in order to shield them, or so that they can acclimatize to this maybe transference between one dimension to another dimension. What are your thoughts on that, Jay? And how?
They did all sorts of stuff to protect them, because you would literally get radiation burns being around the ark. And Graham Hancock talks about the ark that's in Ethiopia, and that the guards have to be changed out every 3 or 4 years because they literally die of cancer from being so close to the Ark of the Covenant. And if you look at that Indiana Jones scene, you see these mists coming out, right, and zooming around. Well, that's the term mystic comes from the word mist, because plasma looks like mist, right? And that's what that is. That looks like mist. That's what a plasma being looks like right there. And no, closing your eyes won't save you. So I think
that was for the kids. That was for the kids in the movie. Wow, that's fascinating because that whole plasma thing, again, it opens up the conversation I had with Dr. Richard Allen Miller a couple of years ago. That also got me in trouble here on YouTube, but he was talking about protoplasma and how humans can have access to it and create and manifest reality in this particular dimension if they had keys to it. One of those keys, of course, was sexual energy and tying that into your central column. Wow. Okay. Julie, there's a second slide here for.
I just want to add here. I'm taking notes because there's so many things
riveting conversation.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Gosha in her video, she was also saying with her ET contacts that the arcs were also used for communication with different star races. Mm-hmm. So she did say that 2 of the arcs were located on Earth. So one, she was saying exactly what you were saying, Jay, that it was extracted from Egypt under the Giza pyramid by the Nazis, like in the Raiders of the Lost Ark movie, and then almost destroyed because of how they tried to open it. And I don't even think it's now operating. Yeah. And apparently it's now in Area 51 or the Pentagon warehouses. So that's one of them. The other one was named the Ark of Gabriel, and it was in Al-Ur, I believe, in Iraq. And then it was covered under the Mecca in Saudi Arabia. And then the Russians in 2015 made a deal with Saudi Arabia and brought it in Antarctica. But this one is operational, she said.
Yes, it is. In fact, it killed a bunch of people.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, she did mention that also.
When they uncovered it went off, and a bunch of construction workers died. And
let me just go backtrack. Where was the first location, Julie? Did you say the ziggurat of Ur?
Yes. She didn't say ziggurat. She said something but she showed that building. So I'm pretty sure we're talking about the same thing.
Wow.
And it's crazy because I was going there with my travels with the military. I went to Kuwait, which is right next to this monument, which is very interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. So she was saying the 2 are the arcs that were created by the Taigetan people on Earth, and then there's a 3rd arc on a Taigetan ship. So, and then she was also saying that on the other video about Ukraine that there might be another arc, but not built by the Taigetan people. So it might have been built by other star races, other type of ET races. That's in Ukraine, but she did confirm with her contacts that it was some form of arc that was very coveted in Ukraine.
So also should be mentioned that the dimensions given for the Ark of the Covenant in the Bible exactly match the sarcophagus in the King's Chamber.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Wow, that's interesting also. Yeah. Okay.
And when when Jay was talking about the two characters on top of the ark, and then with the second line of Nostradamus quatrain of the 2 captives, one will eat the other. I was also seeing this polarity that Jay was talking about between the 2 characters building some sort of force together.
That could be, actually. That really could be, because it'd be positive and negative, and then they would combine together to create a gigantic lightning strike or even a communication device. I know a guy. He goes out with a mirror and he flashes sunlight up into the sky during the daytime, and these plasma beings appear. I mean, he does it all the time. And and he talks to him, and he says that they communicate with him and all this. And I've seen him, so I don't know. If there's a benevolent, invisible species all around us, then you would want to find a way to communicate with them.
Right.
I don't want to talk to that one though.
No.
Very
Close your eyes.
And I would prefer to have my skin not melted off of my face at the next TV.
Probably.
Okay. Wow, this is absolutely fascinating. Okay, Julie, do you want me to bring up the second slide?
Just hold on a second. I had
You got
another
more.
thing.
Okay. Go ahead, keep going.
Because I was making astrology parallels in my mind with Pluto that just entered Aquarius. So Aquarius is all about new technologies, discovering new technologies, but also Pluto is discovering from the underground, so revealing new technologies from the underground. So I'm pretty sure Nostradamus kind of was hinting at maybe we would find an arc that would allow us to discover new technologies, probably also because he's kind of talking about something that could be used for the military, but also that could have other uses. And the other parallel I was thinking about astrology is that starting in July, the nodes will be shifting axis and they're going to move into the Aries Libra axis. So the north node, what we'll have more of, will shift into Aries, which is kind of the warrior sign of the zodiac. So I'm pretty sure a lot of nations, countries, federations are kind of prepping up for this 1.5 year period where they're gonna want to gain power, military power, just in case it all blows up. So I'm not saying it will, far from it, but I just think that they're aware of the astrology and they will be prepping up to gain even more power with those weapons.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let me bring up here. Somebody was asking about this one. So that's the Pluto the Destroyer special episode we did to talk about Pluto entering Aquarius. If you haven't seen that episode, go check it out. This is on our Rumble only. Let me bring the link down here also for you guys. And the other one, who is it? Jay Worth, 22. Who is Julie talking about? Okay, so that's Gosha from Cosmic Agency. Let me bring that first video link also down in the chat for you guys.
Cosmic Agency YouTube channel.
Yeah. And the link is in the live chat now, guys. If you want to go directly to the video, you'll find all that information. And let me bring down the Mariam Henin documentary also, because I think that one's a fabulous one. And I'll send that link also to Jay right after.
And very synchronistic, because at some point I was watching another video more recent from Cosmic Agency from Gosha, and then I went to do something like in another room in my house, and then you know how YouTube give you like random videos suggestions. So the other video from 1 year ago starting playing, and it was the Ark of the Covenant, and I was like, huh? And I was like, oh, this is really close to where I've been traveling. So I kept like listening to it, and I was like, okay, there's more to it, you know, when the universe pushes you to uncover some information.
Well, I wanted to do a show also with Janine and perhaps maybe some remote viewers also, and try to connect the reasons why, on top of the physical level of why you were there in Afghanistan and Kandahar and all these areas, what your soul contract was with these areas, and why your particular keys, your energetic keys, were called there, and perhaps what keys you received from being close to some of these monuments. That'll be for another show. I was going to do it a couple of weeks ago. I forget, something happened. I think it was the ice storm that prevented us from doing that show. But yeah, guys, stay tuned for that. We'll get back to that storyline.
And I'll just say something very quickly. It's right after that about going to the Middle East and those locations that I had my spiritual awakening right after. So, you know.
Yeah. And well, the ziggurat of Ur, just so you know, too, was my big spiritual awakening in Cuba during an eclipse. I had this dream of Inanna, and I was climbing those stairs, only to realize I was at, that junction point where you have the stairs going up and then you have the stairs going down. Where that's where I met Inanna in this dream. So that was a big part of my awakening too. So we'll do a whole show on that, folks. Okay, and link, Jay, I just sent you the link also to the documentary for you. Okay, Julie, let's go back to the second part of that slide.
Yes.
This is okay, so 313 again. Go ahead.
So yeah, the decode from Dolores Cannon's book from the same quatrain. So he says, so Nostradamus, that this quatrain refers to some inventions that you would call modern inventions. These, of course, will be found to have military applications. He says, for example, the box with the flickering light, sometimes it's translated as flickering light instead of lightning, refers to the taming and controlling of electricity. So exactly what Jay was saying, but more in a metaphysical kind of way. Gold and silver technology, such as electroplating things with gold and such. But in my personal opinion, I think it's way more than that. And how this in turn led to technologies such as communications technology, using microchips and such as this, which in turn is what is used to communicate with what you call submarines, the fleet of submarines that each country has. So then later on, Dolores Cannon asks the person who's channeling Nostradamus, the translators thought that he was talking about alchemy. And then he responds, he says that the practice of alchemy gave rise to chemistry and astronomy, as well as astrology also contributing to this. He says that some of the early alchemists were looking for metaphysical knowledge and some were just simply for physical knowledge. So, yeah. So it's kind of just leading the way into the subject of alchemy, which I'm sure Jay will kind of introduce for us, because I don't know much about it, but I'm willing to learn.
Okay, Jay, you're on the spot with that. And speak also to how this alchemy is also the human being getting into that rainbow body, getting into those stages of enlightenment. It seems that perhaps the priests here in Egypt and some of them using the Ark are also using it for that specific purpose, not necessarily as a weapon against their enemies. Speak to that a little bit for the audience.
Yeah, so it's like trying to explain alchemy in a couple of minutes is pretty hilarious. But
we are going to have a course with Jay Weidner on the Academy.
I'm sure it's more complex than just
Yes.
the 2 minutes.
So 99.99% of the universe is plasma.
Yeah.
All right. The rest is gas, liquids, and solids. The last 1%. So all the things that you see are the smallest part of the known universe. So, and you can't see the 99% for the most part outside of stars, which are plasma. Okay. And the sun is plasma. And so there's an invisible universe all around us, and we are physical beings, but we can draw that energy into our being. And when we do that, we can eliminate the need for food, for sleep. This is if you're a really good alchemist, and you live a long time. And you can't separate the metaphysical from the physical. They're both the same. So you have to understand that you're dealing with invisible metaphysical forces. Many of these, I call them critters. I don't know what else to call them. Some of them don't care about us a lot. Some of them don't care about us at all. Some of them don't like us. Most of them don't care. Okay. But if you ever find plasma beings that actually care about you, then you are now have struck philosophical gold, because those beings will now assist you in your journey and give you information and all the rest. So the universe is plasma, it's electricity, and everything that we are is electricity. Our brains are electricity, our heart's electricity, our blood is electricity. That's why it's red. It's got iron in it. That's for conductivity. And when you die, your plasma body leaves the physical body and it goes back up into the larger plasma field. Each planet that has life has a plasma field around it. It's shaped like a torus. And you come down from that plasma field, and your sushumna, which is an invisible filament that comes right down here, the top of your head, and you're always connected to that plasma field. And when you dream, you go up that filament into the plasma field. And when you astral project or remote view or any of that stuff, that's what's going on there. And all of this is going to become known now. We're done. Everybody that I know that knows all this stuff has been afraid for their life, because they basically killed us before. But I just feel like everybody now is ready to talk and release all the information so that we all find out that we are not mortal. We're all immortal, and there's nothing to fear. And we can stand up to anyone, because what's going to happen is you're just going to go back to your plasma field anyway. You'll come back unless you're advanced, and that way you will actually become a higher form of plasma. So that's how it works. And Tantra and alchemy and all of these things are all the same. They're all related. You need to know where your stars are in order to know when the perfect time for you to do your plasma body stuff. And so you need to know your astrology. You need to know the geomancy, what's around you, where the power sources are, mountains and everything. And so it's this all-encompassing thing that the ancients had that we've lost, and we've delineated and separated everything out into specialties, of which you'll never find the secret if you're a specialist.
You know what's fascinating about all that? We're seeing more and more this encroachment on free speech at a very, very accelerated clip around the planet. And to some extent, you think, oh, they want to stop us from talking against the government and, those damn freedom fighters and those damn anti-vaxxers and blah, blah, blah. But really, I think they're probably onto what Jay just said. All of this huge knowledge is coming out. And I think this Orwell 2023 picture there too that was suggested brings that back into the context that really that's what they're fighting against. Because when you look at Jay's channel, just got a strike again. The reasons I got strikes on my channel was for talking about Kundalini awakening and how to empower yourself or disintermediate yourself from the matrix of control. I think that's the real aim ultimately of these censorship programs. Yeah. Going back to the beings, the plasma beings, in your view, Jay, let me bring this up here. This is a wiki page of the Seal of Solomon, but this idea that King Solomon controlled entities with his ring, to some extent, people called them jinn. Are you suggesting there's a link between the jinn and perhaps the plasma beings? Are we talking about two different phenomena, or was it in fact the same phenomena? This was a human who was able to control some of these plasma beings to do their bidding.
Yeah, no, it's the same. That's exactly what it is. I highly recommend that you don't do that, because if you piss off one of them, you could be in some serious trouble. So I don't practice magic. I do communicate with them, but I don't try to manipulate them or anything, because I know how powerful they are, and they'll make you go crazy. They really will. And I did a show on Reality Check. The voices in my head don't like me. It was an interview with a psychologist who worked with mental patients and said that they literally had beings living inside them that didn't like them and said, you're bad, kill yourself. Why don't you just kill yourself? And he actually interviewed one of the beings. He broke through in one of his patients and talked to one of these beings for like 5 minutes, in which he said, yeah, I'm a plasma being, and I entered in. She let me in. She was stupid. She let me in, and now I'm inside her, and I don't really like being inside her, so I'm telling her I want her to die so I can get out of here. And I was like, whoa. It's like, oh my God. And so I think a lot of the mental disorders are these plasma beings and people being sloppy with how they're interacting with them. A lot of people that practice magic end up dying young, and I think it's because they messed around with some of the wrong things. You got to be really careful. Never use a Ouija board either.
I totally agree with you on that one. When my kids talked about that, they said, "Oh, our friends are playing with Ouija board." I'm like, "No, do not,
do not
touch that stuff." Let me just backtrack here. I know you're a big movie fan, also. I'm not sure if you've just seen this new iteration here of the Pope's Exorcist. Just came out. Russell Crowe is the main lead there. Regardless if you're seeing it or not, is it possible also, as you just described, that many of these instances of being taken over humans here in their 3D form are not the demonic beings that we think, but actually a correlation to those plasma beings you're talking about?
Yeah, there are nasty plasma beings that get in there, and and they enjoy inflicting pain. They're archons, or they enjoy inflicting pain on human beings, and they're jealous of us. They can't possess a body, and we can, and there's a lot of jealousy the plasma beings have of us. And because, believe it or not, it's actually really, really fun to be in a body.
Yeah, no, for sure.
There are plasma beings standing in line for the next 100,000 years, hoping to incarnate into a human body. I mean it.
And okay, CB says, "Holy shit!" Yes, holy shit. that's the term here. That's for sure. But I had a shamanic teacher about 20 years ago, and before he had gone through his shamanic awakening and process, he was an alcoholic. And so he had cured that of himself. But what he had said was that once he had gone through this enlightenment process, he could go back to the places he used to fréquenter, to visit the bars, the watering holes he used to go to when he was an alcoholic, and he could literally see stacked up on top of the bar all of these beings just waiting in line to embody people there whose frequency gate had been lowered just enough for them to go through their physical shields. Talk about that, Jay.
Yeah, I wrote a screenplay. I never sold it, but it was about this subject. And the opening scene was a boxing match, right? And two guys just beating the hell out of each other, and the crowd's all cheering and screaming, right? And then the camera pulls back from the whole scene, and you start to see the demons coming in, and as the violence increases, and and the crowd gets excited, and I truly believe that violent sports attract very, very, very bad plasma entities.
Wow.
And so do any kind of violence, war, any kind of violence attracts them in, and they get attracted in. And we know, like from the Mothman incident in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, that there was like all this bad vibe going on in the town, and they kept seeing these weird creatures, right, that they thought were Mothmen. And then this all preceded the bridge collapse, the biggest bridge collapse in U.S. history, over the Ohio River, and killing a whole bunch of people. And so it's like these entities are attracted to things in the future that are going to be bad.
Wow. Fascinating. Okay. Stay away from bars and violent sporting
Stay away from bars.
Protect yourself.
Well, we have to do a whole series on that. We actually have a workshop coming up on psychic protection on the Academy. Stay tuned for that, guys. It was just delayed a couple of times here with everything that's going on here, but it should be up relatively soon. Julie, let me go back to that last slide. Were you done here? Is there more?
Yep. We can switch to the next one.
This one here, 302.
The other 302.
This one.
Yes. Okay. So that's the quatrain that's known as the alchemic quatrain.
Yeah, this is a great one.
Nostradamus. I can't wait to see what Jay has to see about it. So first line, he says, the divine word will give the substance. So for me, like when I read that line, I was also thinking about us going into the age of Aquarius and having more downloads also from source, and more inspiration that's channeling through us into the physical world. So give to the substance more like a material form to those downloads. So that's the way I saw it. And then second line, he says, that which contains heaven and earth, hidden gold in the mystic deed. So that's a very mysterious line. That which contain heaven and earth. So the divine word above, and the line above, contains the heaven and earth, hidden gold in the mystic deed. So to me, what it made me think is like a portal of energy giving us access to even more consciousness. Gold being more consciousness, the sun is more consciousness in astrology. And also the mystic deed, I was also reminded of this transit that we're having right now of Saturn in the sign of Pisces. So Saturn is the control, but also the authority in a society. So I'm thinking a lot of people working in a spiritual community, leading the way for others. So hidden gold in the mystic deed. And Saturn in Pisces, it's interesting before, because we were also talking about how the freedom of speech was very manipulated these days. And it's funny because while we were having that tendency, Saturn was in his home sign of Aquarius for the past 2 years. So Saturn control Aquarius information, freedom of speech. So now that Saturn moved very recently in March, into a sign where it's really weak, Pisces, because Capricorn, Saturn was at home. Also Aquarius, Saturn was at home. So super strong with the control from the government, and then from freedom of speech, and then communication. And then now having Saturn in Pisces, it's at one of its weakest point, because it's not compatible. So it's dissolving, the control is dissolving into even more awareness, even more consciousness. And with that, we also have, as we know, Pluto coming in Aquarius. So the big destroyer, the big changes, crisis in society, organization. So I'm thinking about, we're going to have even more spirituality part of our day-to-day lives, mass awakenings, and also a change in how we view value, I think. Because the mystic deed to me talks about karma a lot. Saturn, the planet of karma, entering Pisces. So I also see like rewards for the people doing spiritual work and helping the mass awakening. So curious to see what Jay thinks about it. I'm just going to finish it. So, and then third line, he says, body, soul, and spirit all are powerful. So to me, Aquarius energy talks about the integration of all those bodies, not being solely a physical body living on the earth plane, but also integrating all of the bodies.
The sacred triune. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, an energetic and physical integration. And then he's talking about all is beneath his feet as at the seat of heaven. So both kind of alluding to the feet, which is the root chakra, and the seat of heaven, the crown chakra. And I brought up another drawing with more of the extended chakras, so the ones that are used to connect us to the soul star, stellar gateway, kind of a bit, I think Jay was talking about when you were talking about plasma. So I think we're going to develop those chakras even more in our connection to source, which is probably the stellar gateway gold chakra. So very interesting that gold alchemy is talking a lot about gold. And then at the bottom of the root chakra, we have the earth star chakra. So also our connection to the heart of our Gaia planet. So basically a lot of information there, but can't wait to see what Jay has to say about it.
Two things I'd like to get Jay to chime in on. First of all, here the divine word will give to the substance. I'm reminded of the word of God, meaning that sound and vibration gives to the creation of materiality or to physicality. So that's the one thing. And two, this idea of these expanding of our chakras leads into the Taoist point of view of the microcosmic orbit, which is also something, again, that talks about how to bring in these energies into the body. Those are the two things I'd like you to focus on, Jay, but please, by all means, also anything else here from this this slide that you want to share with the audience members.
Well, I mean, he's pretty much giving us the secret of alchemy. And he's kind of implying that this is going to be known by everybody. And it is. And I'm really glad to hear that Saturn's in Pisces, because I'm really sick and tired of the control. And again, that's like my films. I'm decided to just bust loose with everything, and because I just feel that if we don't get it out now, there's a chance we will never get it out. And so I think it's time for everybody to become, to talk, to get the word out. So let's take that. Let's take the quatrain now. Go through it.
Yep.
Okay. So the divine word will give to the substance. There really is a divine word. Okay. And it's a word that everybody knows. I don't know if I should give it out. I don't think I can. But there is a divine word, and it's in alchemy, and it's somewhat known by everybody. It's used in slang a little bit, but what it does is it if you use the divine word, you are calling in the plasma beings. All right. And they're the ones who give us substance. That's what you are. You're not food. You're not air. You're plasma. It's coming into you. Chi, prana, whatever you want to call it. That which contains heaven and earth. That is what it is. It's the prana. It contains everything, all the heaven and all the earth. It's a hidden gold in the mystic deed. By saying the divine word, you're now creating the mystic deed, releasing the plasma, because gold symbolizes plasma, because gold is superconductive of electricity. So anytime they talk about gold, it's because gold can actually contain the prana, the chi, the orgone, the plasma and hold it and contain it inside it. That's why it's really the Philosopher's Stone. Body, soul, and spirit are all powerful. That's exactly what happens to you when you begin consuming all chi, prana, plasma, and all is beneath its feet and at the seat of heaven. That's everything. So you're connected to the entire universe when you're in these mystic states. And again, mystic is mist. Plasma looks like smoke, which is mist. So when we say mystical, we're really saying plasma. That's all it means. And so this is actually probably, to me, this is his greatest quatrain. And I'm so glad that we brought it out and we're talking about it, because this really is a secret. In 4 short little sentences, he's really encapsulated the entire alchemical process. And that must have been what he was doing too, by the way. He was using the divine word to look into the future. I'm sure of it.
Well, Jay, there was a reason we used this one for the last of these series of the Nostradamus and the Vortex of Time. And there's also, as you just said, timing is of the essence here to speak the word and to use our throat chakras. Do you mind saying the word for this show? What do you think?
If I said the word, you'd think it was so stupid that because it's been torn apart by pop culture so that it loses its power, you might say.
Is not always the case with all of these hijacking of these critical, divine, and sacred energies and words.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll say it because I really don't care anymore. It's drum roll.
Drum roll, please.
Abracadabra.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember being mesmerized as a kid and going into Fantasyland after I sang that song, Abracadabra. Okay, so I kept singing that song, and then
I actually know Steve Miller.
I would have these crazy, crazy dreams, only to realize later in life that they weren't dreams. I was just being transported into a different, I don't know how to call it, reality or parallel reality, where matter did not matter, if you want to put it that way. Anyways,
that's what it means, actually. That's what abracadabra means. It means that without form. That without form. In other words, it's plasma. It's how you call the plasma beings. And I've read breakdowns of the word abracadabra, and it's Egyptian essentially, or and it's talking about the ab is light, and I could go through the whole thing.
Your ka body, yeah, I know. Yeah, it's really fascinating, and also, so I got to tell you this. So when I heard that first time as a kid, and then I would do that as a weekly, nightly practice before going to bed. I would sing the song, and it would bring me into these trances, and I would see all these weird things. It eventually led me to how do you call it? Awake, getting out of your body awake. Usually, what am I looking for?
Like astral travel?
Yeah. But conscious astral travel.
Right.
Right. So it led me to that. And then I kind of put it away for, just life.
Lucid dreaming.
Yeah, lucid dreaming. No, it wasn't lucid dreaming. Anyways, there's another translation. But you know how life beats the shit out of you, and then you go back to the things that are normal in a square box because that's, your teachers, the school, your parents, you can't do this, you can't do that. I kind of let that abracadabra go. And then when I was in university, I started DJing in a club. And they made a remix, like a really dance electro kind of version of Abracadabra. And the first time I put the needle on record, I heard, I'm like, oh, yes. And it kind of gave me this huge goosebump all the way through my body again. And I remembered that feeling of being in that state. So anyways, fascinating conversation. I could say more, but wow.
I've never heard this song.
No. Oh my God. Okay, Julie, I'll send you both the Steve Miller one and the dance remix that I had too was absolutely amazing. Well, thank you, Jay, for sharing that, because again, that's why we're all here doing these shows and trying to get this information out. And I think we're way past that time now to be able to push forward. And the more they push with the censorship, the more we have to push back with our throat chakra. And the meditation we just did yesterday on the Academy, a big part of that was that sexual healing. We were looking at the root chakra and how it directly ties to, especially for divine feminines, to the larynx. So the connection between the vagus nerve system and the vaginal wall and the larynx, and their ability to use that voice, but also to connect with the source of creation. So guys, if you haven't seen that meditation, you can watch it, of course, on replay here. It's just as powerful on replay as it was live. You can find it here on BeyondMystic.academy. I forgot, guys, there's a bunch of people in the Rumble chat too, and I saw some super chats there too. Thank you so much. I forgot to look at the chat there because we are simulcasting on Rumble here today. Let me bring up also, because I usually do this, we're going to be giving away a pyramid here for one of you lucky donators here on the Rumble.
Talking about orgone.
Yes, talking about orgone. This is, of course, Carla from Ascension Organites. She's so kind to donate these amazing orgone pyramids to us here for the show.
I have them all around my house.
Oh, nice. I love that one.
I got like 50 of them.
Wow. Okay, cool. Let's hear what Carla has to say about this one. This one is named Farah.
Ascension Organites. Hope you're all doing well. So today I have Farah for you. So Farah was originally a custom order, but she became very popular on the website. She is made of rose quartz, white milky quartz, kunzite crystals, clear quartz, and moonstone crystals, together with aluminum metals and the flower of life in silver. So Farah is all about self-love, connection to self, connection to deep intuition, connection to higher self, basically a piece to accompany you on your journey. I'll give her a quick turnaround so you can see it.
Wow.
Gorgeous.
And that's Farah. I hope you guys like her, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carla. And guys, if you're looking at getting one of these amazing creations here, ascensionorganites.com is the website. And you can use coupon code BeyondMystic in one word, and you'll get an extra 10% off of these amazing creations. Thank you so much, Carla, for that. And Julie, are we also giving away a candle here from the new Beyond Mystic 4 Elements candles to the audience today? Which one?
We are. We'll give the patchouli candle, which is the earth candle for today.
Okay, very good.
It's favorite, so let's celebrate her birthday month.
I think we should send Jay some of these also with the 4 elements. I think he'd absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Alchemy.
Yeah, Elena just created this new series. We had the 7 chakras before this one, and this one is the 4 elements for the Beyond Mystic. I'll bring up the logo. Elena and Meili put together here, one of our designers. Absolutely amazing candles. And of course, we went through all the different variations of the concoctions that Elena was putting together at our last staff retreat. And we were like, oh my God, we can't wait for these candles to come out. They smell absolutely amazing. And they have the wooden wick. So they have that sound, that crackling sound to it. I can't say enough about these candles. So guys, go check it out. You can find these at MaisonJupiter.com. Of course, if you use the coupon code BeyondMystic, you'll also get 10% off on this one. Julie, before we go, anything else we want to talk about? We talked about the fact that we're moving into now these movie decodes here moving forward with Jay, similar to the Nostradamus and the Vortex of Time kind of decodes, but we're going to focus a little bit more on perhaps disclosure through these movies, the alchemy here of going through the Torii Gate from the mundane to the divine. We're going to kind of put our focus on that moving forward. Anything else, though, in terms of the astrology, the audience members might need to know right now? You've just mentioned, of course, Pluto moving into the age of Aquarius. Pluto the Destroyer, we put up the episode here on Rumble. That means that a lot of the old structures are coming apart, and it's our job here moving into the age of Aquarius to recreate the structures that we want for humanity. Let them know here what's coming up in terms of astrology for the next couple of weeks and months here, and how they can best manifest their own destiny through all of that.
Yeah, so funny because I was always like a super huge sci-fi movie fan throughout my my childhood and my life, and Pluto moving in Aquarius is sci-fi. It's the future sign, future-oriented sign. So when Cliff says we're moving into sci-fi world, well, it's basically Pluto is the big revealer. So it destroys all old structures that no longer align with the future that we're going into, which is a lot of the technologies that have been hidden from us are going to be revealed with this transit of Pluto coming in Aquarius. So we're really, I think, going to gain those years, those 100 years or maybe more that we lost because those technologies were hidden, but also consciousness and how to work with energy, which is also Aquarius. So I think we're going to move into the future really, really fast. Yeah. And I think sci-fi movies have a lot of disclosure to offer us. So I can't wait to dive into them.
Mm-hmm. And go ahead.
I'd like to ask you both a questions. What is your favorite sci-fi movie?
Mine is 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh yeah, classic.
I'd have to say mine is the same. Like I have many, but on many
Me
different
too.
levels. Kubrick really kicked it out of the park. He's really the grandfather of all of this sci-fi
really
stuff we see today. Not just from frame composition to music score to but really the undertone and the feeling and it's just hard to
It's
beat.
an art piece. It's
Oh,
a
yeah.
masterpiece.
More of
Yeah.
an art piece than a movie, really.
Yeah. If you want to see the decode of that, guys, we did. Those shows were deleted by YouTube, but they're still available on BeyondMystic.net. All the decode. I know why. Why? I mean, many people have done it before, but when Jay and I or other people on my show do it, for some reason, we hit a note that is just taboo. I don't know what that note is.
I don't either.
Perhaps it's abracadabra. So just
That'll probably get us in more trouble than anything.
Yeah, exactly. So go look for this poster, guys, on YouTube, and you can hear the Steve Miller Band version of that and have some fun with that. And yeah, maybe I'll bring up the dance.
Steve Miller doesn't look anything like that anymore.
No.
I guarantee it.
So you see, 82. So I would have been 10 years old, and my mind was still open to a lot of possibilities in those ages, right? Like you're almost kind of set in by the schooling system, but I still had room for the huge imagination and the big possibilities that our world gives us, really, that has been taken away from us through this matrix of control, the education and all that. So these were fabulous years for me. And for some reason, I don't know. Let me ask you this. Do you think that that's exactly what he was doing at the time, Steve Miller, that he was a sorts an alchemist and revealing those secrets through this song, whether or not that was explained in the album track cover and the details? Do you think that he was actually trying to let humans know here that by singing this particular song and using those words, they were accessing here, as you said, like non-local matter?
I don't know. I've actually asked him that, and he gave me kind of a vague answer. So I think that it doesn't matter, because however he was inspired to use that word, it got used. And once you use it, then you're releasing like real powerful powers, spiritual powers.
The cat's out of the bag.
But I want to say one thing about what Julie said about what's going to happen here is Terrence McKenna used to say this to me all the time. He said, what you don't understand, Jay, is that when the age of Aquarius comes, the entire future will happen. And I would say, what does that mean? And he'd say, everything, all the inventions and everything will all occur at the same time. So there's like a buildup of all this technology, and then it's just going to be all released at the same time. And it's going to be absolutely mind-blowing, and it's going to blow apart. It could blow apart our whole society.
For sure.
It's
that coiled spring that's been suppressed for so long. Once it's released, everything comes out at the same time. And we're actually living in it now. If you have the eyes to see, we're seeing right now the crackling around that coil that is starting to spread.
That's what AI is. AI is the beginning of the end for many technologies and much work. People are going to have to start finding other ways to make a living, because AI is going to take away a lot of jobs.
We were talking about that in our show about how it wasn't a Tavistock Institute, but another one of those big think tanks that were saying that maybe in the next 10 years, 80% of government jobs would be gone just because of smart contracts and how most of the government programs can be run now by automated
software. Will be.
So
well, it's not bad if you think that it's going to put humans back into their creative power and not doing robot work anymore. So you'll have no choice but to be a creator of your own existence.
Well, just like in Star Trek, if you don't have to work for money, there's no money, you have replicators for food and all that, suddenly you can spend your time being the best version of yourself to be a better human. And I remember that Picard line there in First Contact, he was talking about that. And of course, it's Gene Roddenberry's vision. And I have a show coming up. It's going to be called Where No Woo Has Gone Before. So stay tuned for that. We're going to get into exactly that subject matter of how we can look at Gene Roddenberry's vision and how that ties into walking through that Torii gate and what we're looking at right now with the astrology. So that's going to be with Julie, myself, Janine, and some very special guests coming up. So stay tuned for that series.
You know that Gene Roddenberry was Star Trek was an idea given to Gene Roddenberry by a general high up in the secret space program.
The Navy, yeah.
The Navy.
Yeah.
It all makes sense.
It's part of my show notes for one of those interviews that's coming up. So yes, you're. I'll have you on too for this one, Jay. I'm sure you're going to have a lot to contribute to that. It'll be amazing. And so it's going to be called Where Neo Wu Has Gone Before. Guys, this was the last of the Nostradamus and the Vortex of Time. Thank you so much to our contributor, Mr. Jay Weidner. Amazing work as always. Thank you so much, Julie, for all the amazing research also. Please, guys, go and support Julie here at MaisonJupiter.com. And of course, you can go and look at all of the amazing content here at Reality Check on YouTube, and stay tuned for the upcoming 3 documentaries being promoted and presented here by Jay Weidner in 2023. I'm Jean-Claude at BeyondMystic. I love you guys. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Au revoir.
See you guys.
Au revoir.